What's up, guys? It's your boy, and you get me editing 2 weeks in a row. Why, you may ask? Well, for two reasons, actually. One, I'm super busy and filming this 2 days before it comes out, which probably isn't the best of ideas, and the second reason is because my editor is hard at work on the Japan vlogs that will come out later, and I want him to have the time to work on those. In the meantime, though, I still do have a topic amongst my schoolwork and all the crazy things going on right now. I'm hoping things will die down and I'll be able to kind of work on some more elaborate videos here soon. But I did come up with a video idea that I think you guys may be interested, so sit back, relax, and let's get straight into it. Now, before we do that, you already know what to do. There's the buttons down below. Go ahead and click them and do all the things. Like and subscribe. Those are the ones that you should focus on primarily, I would think. And now let's get into one-and-dones in anime, specifically as they regard to seasonal shows that get one season and then never a second season. And you might think, well, Grant, this is so obvious. If a show isn't popular enough, it's not going to get a second season. And I do think that is the case for the most part. There are some obscure, like, idol shows that are really kind of niche audience things that never get a second season, and I don't think you'll ever really see referenced again. And I think that a lot of those are for good reason. They serve their purpose to give the audience, for usually the manga readers who read that obscure series manga, a reason to tune into the anime. It's more of like a, hey, you like the manga enough that we were able to fund an anime. Here it is. We hope you enjoy these 12 episodes. And then it's never referenced again. But that's okay for most cases. I think, you know, there's always going to be niches for, like, small fan bases that are like, oh man, I really like this one obscure show, I wish it would get a second season, and it'll never get that. And I think a lot of the times those fans know that it's not going to get a second season, even though that show that they really like is niche. And that's hard, obviously, but I don't think it's always the case that it's these smaller shows that are going to get basically the shaft for a second season, for no good reason in a lot of these cases. But what about something that's a bit more like medium, maybe a bubble show, right? Something that really kind of performs well, but doesn't get a second season go-ahead. Because a lot of the times it just doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. And I think one kind of goofy example, granted, but it's an example that really kind of drives the point a little bit, is the difference between Orimo and Eromanga Sensei, two shows that I definitely have never watched. One has a second season that closes out the storyline, ties everything together. The other has a single season that exists. It also got two OVAs that a lot of people don't know about, but it doesn't really conclude the storyline like Orimo does, which had double the amount of episodes, more time to flesh it out. So why does one have 2 seasons and the other does not? Well, this is something that is actually quite interesting from a domestic versus international standpoint, because animes, even though they don't feel like it a lot of the times because they are so often shipped internationally for wider audiences to see, they're still made for people in Japan, and a lot of the sales that are in Japan are Blu-ray sales. They still like to buy physical media. Heck, when I was there just a couple short months ago, there would still be record stores, DVD stores, stores where you could buy physical versions of these things. And a lot of time, for something like idol-related, for instance, they have tickets for events to meet idols or voice actresses or whatever, so they still are very much a physical media-based culture. And while you may think that spending $100 a year for a Crunchyroll membership is supporting that anime you like, really it's more of keeping up the servers and then maybe giving a little bit of money to the studios. It's really not supporting that specific anime all that much when you watch that show. So, for a second season to happen, you have to be reliant on the physical merchandise sales. And that comes primarily for Japan in the form of Blu-rays, physical copies of the media, or in merchandising, figures, shirts, acrylics, what have you. There's a little bit of everything in terms of merchandise for anime. Heck, if you've ever seen them, they're quite wild. For Evangelion in particular, there's crawfish figures. I don't understand why they exist. I don't think I'll ever understand why they exist, but they do exist because they're merchandise. Because if you can make any money off that anime, whether you're making a second season or you're just milking the franchise for 25 years, you're gonna do it. And particularly for these kind of medium tier that are right on the bubble, a lot of the time it's that physical merchandise sale thing that just doesn't quite push it over the edge to where it can get a second season. So as much as you like that bubble show and you're like, when's the second season? I thought it was doing pretty well. It might have done okay in terms of streaming numbers, but it wasn't quite a success to the point where people were buying merchandise en masse in order to support that second season. It sucks because a lot of shows fall into this category. A lot of good shows that deserve a second season fall into this category, but unfortunately most of them will never get the light of day. However, there is a section that I want to talk about and really spend the most time on because I think it's bizarre more than anything. What about the big shows, the big ticket items that have a big audience and really, like, people kind of latch onto these shows and they never get a second season? The biggest crux example, it's the Half-Life 3 of anime, is No Game, No Life, which has a season and a movie, but no season 2. I will get to that, but before I do kind of want to focus on just broader, like, bigger name shows that don't get the second season, and some that really shouldn't have got a second season, but did. For instance, Horimiya. Horimiya was a very, very popular show. It was made by Cloverworks, the same people who did Bunny Girl Senpai. I've talked about it in prior videos, and it's just a really kind of solid show. It did pretty well. And it's not going to get a second season. At least anytime soon, if ever. Because, to my knowledge, I don't like spoiling things for myself, so I don't go online and read about these things in depth just in case. But don't worry, there's no spoilers here, but there's not enough manga material for Horimiya to continue, which stinks because it was a great show. I really liked Horimiya, but it didn't leave on a cliffhanger per se, but it left on a note that left me kind of wanting more. But from what I can tell, it's over, it's done, it's told its story, and they fit it all into an anime, and it's a good story, and I recommend you watch it. But it leaves on a note where I'm like, if they made a second season, it would be so good. We could see these things develop and see how things play out. But it's just not at that point yet. And some other shows have kind of fallen into this trap, and it's really been to their detriment. One show that I really just think they made a little too early is a personal favorite of mine with Blend S. They made a full season based on the manga. It was 12 episodes, and then there wasn't enough manga material to make another season, and Blend S kind of blew up unexpectedly because of the meme material for it, and a lot more people were kind of exposed to that than they probably were expecting. They were probably expecting a moderate success because it's a fun little working comedy, but to the success that it got, I highly doubt that they were quite expecting it. The manga has more than caught up though now. They've made multiple more editions of the manga to the point where they could easily make a second season. But the problem is the waiting period. And that is something that I think is a detriment as well for these really good concepts that they're like, oh, we just gotta adapt this into an anime. It's just too good. Well, you worked a little too fast and we don't have enough material for a second season. And by the time that people would want a second season, there's still not enough material, and then 5 years later, people don't care about that show. They've moved on. People don't talk about Blend S anymore. And, you know, I'm personally a little saddened by that. Maybe this video will bring back no, it's not going to. But that said, people really kind of latch on to some of these shows. There's just not enough material. They get forgotten about by the community at large, and then a second season never happens. And that's unfortunate, but it's just kind of the reality of things. You jump onto an opportunity, you take it, and it works, and then you just don't have the material for more. And sometimes it's okay because there's not really meant to be more, but other times you get left on a cliffhanger for eternity, and that's kind of a bummer, but it happens. But then there's also shows that get a second season that I don't think deserve it. For instance, Seven Seeds. Seven Seeds was a show on the King of Killing Hype, Netflix. And Seven Seeds, the first season, was not good. I'll just be honest, it wasn't a very good show. I had a friend who recommended I watch it, and I watched the first season, and I just thought it was kind of mid. It wasn't, like, awful, but I watched it, and I was like, it's just kind of a show that exists. It's this kind of survival show, right? And while I can't say that I recommend watching the first season, the second season picked up, and things got a whole lot better. And if it didn't have that second season, I wouldn't recommend the show to anybody. But because that second season really kind of ramps up the stakes, really kind of establishes the characters a little bit better, I would recommend 7 Seeds to people. Not as like it's not on near the top of my list, but if somebody would ask me, is 7 Seeds worth watching? I would say, yeah, you're not gonna hate it. It's a pretty good watch. And that's really kind of interesting because that tells me that bad shows that can get a second season and are given the chance can really be great. So imagine a good show with a good setup can do if given the chance for a second season, but just isn't because the hype has died down. And unfortunately, I think that No Game, No Life, which I told you I'd get to, we're finally there, has kind of fallen into. And it's this idea that it's really hyped by the people here internationally, and oh yeah, when No Game, No Life Season 2 comes out, it's gonna be huge, it's gonna be amazing. And it does have a really large community, don't get me wrong, and I think with the propelling of YouTubers and the anime community, I really think that they would try to push No Game, No Life Season 2 to the top. I truly do believe that. However, from a marketing standpoint, the reason why I think No Game, No Life is not getting a second season right now is because it's still seen as too niche a market. I saw some like advertising for No Game, No Life things even in Japan. There are the fans there, but I would say the biggest fear is that they would just fall into the isekai pocket of things, and only the No Game, No Life fans that have been waiting for this are really going to pay attention to things, and it's not going to be driven enough to the forefront that it is worth our time and budget in making, because we've got all these other projects that are doing really well right now. I don't think MAPPA, if given the choice between making a Season 2 of Jujutsu Kaisen and a Season 2 of No Game, No Life, would choose to make No Game, No Life. I think they would make Jujutsu Kaisen. And I know that that might disappoint some people, but from a balancing budget perspective, I think they're going to just try and make the more popular thing at this point, and I think they probably see No Game, No Life as something that had its time and even got a movie, so why would we need to make a Season 2 of that show? And who knows, I don't know the Blu-ray numbers for No Game, No Life either. Maybe it didn't do too well on the Japan side of things, and when it's made for that market and it's not performing well in that market, then maybe it's not worth it for that market. Well, I'm sorry if this video seems a little rushed. As I said, things have been just kind of hectic around here, and then I had to edit it myself, but hopefully you got something out of this video. If you did, leave a comment. If you didn't, well, maybe still leave a comment about your opinion of whether maybe you disagree with me or something like that. I read all my comments, I love reading them, and oh yeah, remember, you can still click the like and subscribe button. They're still right there, and if you're feeling extra crazy, you can click the notification bell. I have been Jelswick, and I will see you guys next time.